Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to Fine Print. This is a show by Diverses where we take a look at a poem that you send to us and we just analyze it. We see what are you doing with your speaker? What are you doing in terms of the structures and devices, your stanzas, your figurative language, all that fun stuff. We're just trying to see how it's functioning in your poem and how it's reinforcing what you have going on to guide you in this process. I will be your host. My name is Jeff. And today we have a great poem that is from this is the piece itself. It's called I've a New Pain Nagging. And this is a poem that was given to us on threads by the user. You can also search Thoughts Lab. You'll be able to see that in a moment. So we greatly appreciate them. Thank you so much for sending us your words. We greatly appreciate it. We're excited to dig into the poem. One of the things that really stood out to me was its use of sound and sound imagery, which I think is going to be very, very helpful to dig into. Before we get to that, though, just a couple of quick reminders of things that we got going on. So, first things first, if you are a women identifying poet, we are running our collective residency. This is our first residency program. It's from December 8th through December 10th. So it's a 3-day residency. We're taking two poets who will stay at one location. And on the 9th, they will also have the chance to each deliver a 20-minute poetry feature, which will be recorded. We are taking submissions through the end of this month. So until October 1st at 11:59 p.m. Okay, you can find out more information by going to diversespoetry.com. So again, looking for two women identifying poets. And then the next thing I just want to remind you of, every single Wednesday from 9 to 9:30 p.m., we have a series called From Work to Workshops, where basically we help give some ideas and some strategies for turning your writing into an actual course or a workshop, something that you can do with other people, something that you could even record and turn into a video course. And we do that again every single Wednesday. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, again, if you go to diversespoetry.com, there will be a basically a pop-up that comes up that'll let you register, and that is every single Wednesday. We would love to help you turn your writing into something that sustains you in multiple ways, your artistic goals, but also your professional goals as well. Now, if you have questions about the residency or that, be sure to let me know. But let's take a look again at our poem. I'm going to share my screen with you so we can take a look at this piece. Again, this is titled I Have a New Pain Nagging. I have a new pain nagging just below my ear near the hinge of my jaw. The muscle or fascia nestled down there would like my attention or yawn in hunger. It wakes up at 3:58 a.m. like the cats with their third shift inventories. It wasn't long ago that these new pains required no further consideration, but last year grandmother slept in a hospital bed in Dallas. When she awoke and just before she left, I listened to the sounds she made, creaking hardwood and sleep talk, the wail of a loon on a still lake, all and in stereo like nothing heard. My stepmother, an intensive care nurse, just after to soothe my twisted cheeks, told me that they all sound like that. They're having a conversation with someone we can't see in a language it takes a lifetime. So often now, when these new pains nag, I wonder, has today's class started? How many years of instruction will it take for me to become fluent? Give that up for Talks Lab. Thank you so much again for sending us the poem. I want to explore this piece and its use specifically of sound throughout it, because I think with poetry and with writing in general, it's very easy to get stuck in the visual in terms of often the descriptions that we're using. A lot of it is based grounded in the things that we see. So the more that we're able to incorporate additional senses, whether acoustic, taste, smell, all that fun stuff. The more we are able to do that, I think the more we're able to also immerse our own readers into the work as well. Southern Bacon Living, thank you so much for stopping by. Great to see you again. Enjoying the poem. So let's actually see what's going on here. What are some things that we can take away? Let's just first start off by identifying where the sounds appear in this piece. Understand that's a lot of it. Okay. The first thing I want to say actually isn't a sound image, but actually sensory in terms of touch and feeling with pain. Pain also being located around the ear in the hinge of a jaw. So that's kind of just the first image thing that's standing out to me. I know it's not a sound thing, but that's also another one. Things related to touch, um, that sense. But the first real sound thing that I'm noticing is yelps. It yelps when I chew or yawn. And then the cats. It wakes you up like the cats. Um, and I think that's really interesting. Third shift inventory is one of my favorite things. When I was at a workshop, I was working with Vivi Francis. Um, and one thing she would really, really stress with us is that, great poems all have something weird or something strange. You can't be predictable or just keep everything neat all the time. So you have to throw in something that's just like a curveball to your readers. So like, wait, what? So to me, that the cats with their third shift inventories, I was really drawn to get that late night graveyard shift. I liked associating with the cats. Um, Appreciated that. I think it's also a great way. Cats often is like people throw in a cat. A lot of times that's focused on the visual, but paired with it wakes me up at 3:58 like the cats. To me, that gives the cats more of a auditory sound sense, which I really appreciated. So kind of inverting a bit the expectation there. Moving on from that, we then move on to the grandmother. She's asleep, and I listened to the sounds she made. So already we're being drawn to sounds, and we're getting some onomatopoeia. We get creaking. She made creaking hardwood, and we get sleep talk. I really like that pairing too, because creaking hardwood has that kind of firm quality to it, like especially with the creaking, and then of course hardwood with emphasis on hard. But then the sleep talk to me feels softer, and I think some of that has to do with the consonants and the vowels, like creaking hardwood. There's a lot of firm consonants there with your k sounds, your r sound, things like that. Hardwood with the d sounds, but then sleep talk is much softer, the E sounds and the aw sounds. I mean, even in talk, you see the L, but talk doesn't make like talk, where you make a hard L. It really makes more of an aw sound. So it just is a lot smoother. And I like that contrast, creaking hardwood and sleep talk. I think that pairs very well. And then we get another kind of a weird image too, in the wail of a loon on a still lake, which is like, wait, what? What's happening? So I like that it kind of throws you out of that scene for a moment, but still keeps you there. Like the Lunon is still like, um, and then tied in with that next part, all together pants there, like nothing I'd ever heard. After that, what are some other sound places? To soothe my twisted cheeks. Twisted cheeks was another image that kind of caught me off guard a bit, which I thought was interesting. And then followed by then we get dialogue, right? My stepmother, what does she do? She told me. So again, we're relying on the voice. Um, And I appreciate Southern Pagan Living noting some of these images again are striking and being a little bit unusual. Um, so again, now we're on to voice, uh, and that they all sound like that. That's a very interesting line because they all sound like that. So you're taking the personal, the grandmother, the speaker's grandmother, and then what are you doing? You're depersonalizing the grandmother. You're grouping the grandmother into the communal. They all sound like that. They're having a conversation with someone we can't see. And again, I like that this is actually removing sight, like very literally removing sight. We can't see. And instead what are we left with? We're only left with the sound. In a lot of ways that's that's kind of a it kind of captures what's happening in the poem itself, right? The poem is a conversation with a writer that you can't see. It's just a conversation. Um, I feel like there's like almost like some meta things going on as well. In a language, it takes a lifetime to learn. So often now, these new pains nag. Even nagging to me, nagging has a lot of sound qualities to it as well. When you imagine someone nagging, the sound of their like complaining or like constant reminding and things like that. And then they get, I wonder, in a line by itself. Um, Not focusing today on line breaks and also just kind of like line structure, but drawing a lot of attention to itself on its own, which is the I wonder. Has today's class started? How many years of instruction will it take for me to become fluent? And again, fluent to me also has a sound quality to a degree because fluent is about the it's when you hear someone that says they're fluent in a language, a lot of times that the association then is with speaking. You're able to communicate orally in the language. Okay. Appreciate these insights again too by Southern Pagan Living. When they shut that door and you can hear from the outside, but don't have a clue what they're saying inside the room. Yeah. So again, that again, you can't see them, but you can just hear the voice, that insight. And so, what I think this is really able to accomplish by allowing the focus to be on the sound is it allows me to be in the moment even more than if we just entirely focused on the visual. It also puts me more into the speaker's mindset. Like, for instance, again, 350, like the cats. I personally have never had this experience. I have not had the honor of being woken up by cats at 3:58 in the morning. But I can imagine it, and I'm there, and I think that is able to do it. So again, it makes the poem become alive, become a little bit more evocative. I think that sound is also being used. There's this interesting sense of intimacy that's associated with sound in this piece. We get earlier, where was it? It was with the they all. Okay, they all sound like that. They're having a conversation with someone we can't see in a language it takes a lifetime to learn. So again, there is this intimacy that is created with sound because there are people that those who are able to interpret the sound, they have a connection to each other that those on the outside, similar to what Southern Pagan Living was mentioning about, you're outside the door, they're talking, but you don't know what they're saying. You're locked out. You're not part of that intimacy. So there's this relationship that's created with sound where if you're in on it, you get it and you know it. But if you're on the outside, you're just kind of wanting to understand. There's a lot of just kind of like ars poetica kind of going on in this piece as well, right? Like life and death, but there's a lot of just kind of talking about poetry in general going on, which I think is interesting. Um, the other thing I was going to say, also associating sound with just languages as well, and sound in associations with fluency and fluency again determining how connected someone is or disconnected someone is with the subject. So for instance, in this case, the grandmother. And it's interesting too, like just seeing the character aspect. So we start off with just the speaker, then we get the grandmother, so again, I think that implies family and things like that, but we get more and more distant from the grandmother. The grandmother, as you progress in the piece, becomes more and more separated from the speaker. In fact, we don't even see the grandmother. She kind of disappears, right? Like we get the grandmother, then she becomes she, and that's it. The grandmother after that is just gone, right? Um, in fact, the grandmother becomes the they all, the part of the they. So you're literally watching the grandmother, I don't say disintegrate, but kind of pass away in the poem itself. And then who's the other character that comes after that? The stepmother. So already we're in terms of like the relationships between characters, we're constantly kind of moving more and more distant. There's still association, like my stepmother, but again, a stepmother, not a mother. We're literally a step away. We're stepping away from the grandmother. We're stepping away from a mother, so we're getting to a stepmother. And in fact, even the stepmother starts being separated too, because stepmother becomes the intensive care nurse. And there's also that kind of relationship, I think, between the stepmother and the speaker is interesting too, because the stepmother is taking on this role of like an authority figure. And I know we're kind of stepping away from the argument about sound, but it's just kind of something that sticking out to me right now in terms of the relationship dynamics. So you have the stepmother who becomes the intensive care nurse, who is taking on again this position of authority, this very clinical, I should say. It's just kind of like, oh, this is how it is. Like it's just kind of like going kind of by like the text. Um, it's very, it feels kind of sanitized. They all sound like that. They're having a conversation. Like it's just like this is how it is. But this is a new experience for the speaker. So the speaker is learning. So the speaker is taking on this um childlike, which again is also implied by words like grandmother, stepmother, um, role in the poem, learning, and that continues through the rest of the piece as well because this is new information for the speaker, as we can tell by the ending. I wonder has today's class the speaker doesn't even know, like, am I even is this the time for my lesson? Is this when it's happening? When am I going to fully understand this? That's kind of what's happening here. Right at the very end, which I think is very interesting. Um so just like the relationship dynamics that are also occurring here. All right. Other things that are standing out to you about this piece. I kind of want to look at dialogue. Speaking of sound, I want to see how dialogue is used. Um, there's a sound that's associated with waking. Cats. Last year, grandmother slept when she woke. I listened to his sounds she made. Good and sleep talk. But again, the speaking isn't actually happening to the speaker. Just the grandma almost talking to herself. Heard. Also, again, sound being associated with that line is also very informative to me. Like nothing I'd ever heard. So again, we're associating familiarity and learning. There's the sounds that are familiar to the speaker that the speaker has knowledge of, like earlier cat. Then there's also the things that the speaker has never heard before, and so this is a sounds are being associated with learning. And again, we see that with the class and the sense of fluency as well. I think it's interesting with the dialogue with the stepmother. There's so much dialogue that's happening in the poem, but we don't actually know what's literally being said. We know that there's sleep talk happening. We know that they all sound like that. They're having a conversation. We know that there is this conversation happening, but again, there's this distancing that's happening as well because we're never actually informed what are the literal things that are being said. We don't have anything that's to indicate what the words are that they're hearing or what are the transcriptions of the sounds that they're hearing or things like that. So I think that sound is also as a device in the poem. I think sound is being used as a tool to indicate intimacy, but it's also more frequently being used as a tool of distance, even creating distance between other characters beside the grandmother. Like there's distance between the stepmother and the speaker because everything that's being given from the stepmother is reported speech. We don't know what the stepmother actually said. And then you get into all kinds of debates too, right? Because now you're getting into because I'm not using direct speech, I'm using reported speech. Now you're getting into issues of how much can I actually trust the speaker because it's almost like playing whisper down the lane, right? So I'm going to trust that the speaker is relaying the information that the stepmother said. Like, it makes me wonder, is this actually what the stepmother said? That the stepmother said, oh, they all sound like that, or are we just kind of summarizing? Um, because in a lot of ways, like, they all sound like that. Again, that's almost dismissive and almost authoritative. Like, it's kind of creating this kind of, in my opinion, almost this tension between the speaker and the stepmother. And again, the fact that, we made a very conscious choice in this piece to be like, no, this was not my mom, this was my stepmom. Like, that's a very conscious, active decision, right? And some people would be like, okay, but maybe this is what really happened. Okay, but I mean, it's the poem's the poem. Poem's is its own world, you know. So I think that's very interesting there. Take a look at the chat. Oh, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate you. Like how you break these down. Please do. I'm always looking for um more poems to read. I can't always guarantee that we'll have time to do them on a stream, but I always appreciate looking at poems. Um anyways, guys, I don't want this to drag out. Those are just rapid reactions. Again, these are pieces that this is my first time really digging into the poem. So these are kind of just some rapid thoughts. I appreciate the dynamics that sound is able to introduce, not only between the speaker and the grandmother, but also between the speaker and the stepmother, and also the speaker and their own experiences. The use of sound, like I mentioned earlier, between familiarity versus the lack of familiarity. And it's really interesting for the times when there's lack of familiarity. It's very evident because the descriptions are a lot less rich, whereas the sounds that are most familiar, again, I go back to that cat from earlier. Those are the things that are much more specific, like the 3:58 a.m. cat. Good question. Southern Pagan Living asks, who is this by? This is by, you can find them again on Threads, by Totslob. It's an interesting name. All right, guys, with that, I'm going to head out, but I would love to know your own thoughts. If you feel like I missed something, you want to argue something, let's go. I love debating. Feel free what your own thoughts are. But thanks so much again to Toss Lab for sending us the piece. We greatly appreciate it. We can't do this without you. Check out our other poems in the series. We do this analysis throughout in our series Fine Print, and we can find that in the playlist. Okay. And again, just very quick reminders. Again, we have our residency coming up. We're looking for 2 women identifying poets. We still have applications open through October 31st. Stay in Columbus, Ohio for free. One poet will also receive a $200 stipend. Okay. No, again, it'll be 2 women identifying poets staying in one location in Columbus, Ohio. They will also be given a featured reading on this Saturday that will be recorded and given to you, so you can do with it as you wish. And then the other thing too is every single Wednesday, we hold a workshop from 9 to, yep, where we just discuss strategies for how you can turn your own writing, wherever you are in your writing career, we can help you turn your writing into a course, a class, a workshop, a video course, a webinar, something you teach online. We'll give you some strategies. It's completely free. We would love to work with you and help you take your writing to the next professional level. That's our goal. Once more, guys, my name is Jeff. Thank you for spending time with me on a Sunday night. At least that's what here. I greatly appreciate you. We'll be back next Sunday with more. Keep an eye out again on Tuesday when we do our Diverses live stream talking about a topic related to poetry. I'll see you guys later. You guys have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon. Thanks for your time. We'll talk soon.